Great. So the first thing that I just want to inform everybody about is that we have shipped the ability to choose uh, Gemini or OpenAI when Storytel is answering a prompt. And I'm just going to show that to you. So I am here at Storytell.ai in production. So this is the new beta platform, not the original platform. So Bears, I know you spend most of your time in the original platform, and Leah, everything that I'm going to be doing today will pretty much be beta because that's where we're really focused on putting resources. If either of you have things from the original platform that you want to ask about, feel free. But this first thing that we're showing is the ability to choose a large language model. So I'm going to just grab a piece of content here. So we'll grab the Paramount 10K. So this is a very dense SEC filing, and we can see that it is uploaded here. And when I ask a question, so I might say, summarize this for me using, and then I can say Gemini. And we can see here that I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. It's kind of like glowing a little bit. And that's because we're recognizing
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking for a specific model to give me the response. And so now you can see that the response here is being run through Gemini Pro. Now, we actually tend to choose OpenAI models because Gemini is not as fast. And you can see here that it's like, this is the exact reason why we're not like choosing Gemini by default. I'm actually going to do something here. I'm going to go to Storytell.ai again, and I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to say using OpenAI. So let me just grab the 10K here. And we're really just defaulting to OpenAI right now. I'll talk a little bit more about what's going to happen with these different models, but summarize this using OpenAI. And we can see that it has also gone colorful, I guess. We if you don't specify a model, we will right now return with GPT 4.0 for you. Let me tell you, and this is actually still working here. There we go. Now it's running with Gemini. So that took a lot longer. Here's where we're going with this. We don't think that as a user, you should need to tell us which model you want unless you have a preference. And so this is the very beginning of a router, what's called an LLM router that we're building, where we are going to use the best large language model for the task at hand based on a set of intelligence and instructions and rules that as a user you never have to even know about. So what's going to be happening soon is just the best LLM to answer the question will just magically be showing up here. The reason that we're building it this way first is because before we put all that intelligence into the system, we do want you to be able to specify. Sometimes you might have a preference. There might be a specific model that you do want to use. So we're building that piece of functionality first. You can specify it now, but then we're not expecting that you'll often be wanting to, but sometimes maybe you will. I'll just stop there and see if anybody has any thoughts, questions, observations on that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I just want to know currently, how are you expecting users to know which model they prefer?
Right.
Um,
We
just
yeah,
question.
we think that often you won't know which model that you prefer.
Mhm.
But here's what we expect is going to happen is we just all become more AI enabled in our lives. The
Mhm.
first thing is that we think that it's probably true that we're going to be moving from a there's one or two or three foundational models. There's, Claude or Gemini or OpenAI to instead there's this great spreadsheet that's tracking 400 models. Many of these are open source models. Many of these are meant for specific purposes. But what we're trying to build for is a future where if you're doing something that's around data analysis with CSVs, there's going to be a specific model. Or within your company, there might be a model that your company wants to be used for financial jobs to be done or things like that. So we're really building the infrastructure now that's going to allow for that kind of like magical model switching.
Mhm.
Also, where sometimes a user might say, no, I really do want to use like Opus for this because I think Claude Opus gives me the best response for code or whatever that might be. Does that, but I
Yeah,
to
yeah, thank you.
actually ask you, like, do you ever want to use a specific model?
Honestly, I don't think I know the capabilities of each model for, different use cases, which is why as a user, I would probably not know where to start.
Right. Yeah.
Um, just one thing that I thought of, which I don't know if that's like within scope or not, is eventually when you are suggesting models, is there a possibility of like explaining why?
Mm. Great. And yes, absolutely. So we can see that we already have a little spot here where we talk a bit about how the model is working, how many tokens they used, and
Mhm.
encrypted enterprise connection. But where this is just a placeholder for us to absolutely say, like, hey, we use this model, here's why. And by the way, if you want to rerun it with this other model, you can, and you'll probably get an answer that looks more like this. But
Mhm.
for now, if you just want to play around with this, you can look at the differences between the two. Here's Gemini, here's OpenAI, so feel free to play around with that if you'd like. I also, while we're here, I just want to call out some of the things that we've been making investments in around being able to either highlight text. So I can say, okay, I want to highlight just this text and I want to get more in depth around this. There's this idea of reaching deeper into the large language model to be able to get a more in-depth answer. And the reason that really matters is because if I go pull up the original 10K, this is a very, very long, very dense document. And obviously, what's given here as the summary is just a little bit of what's in the actual document. And I think as humans, we often think, oh, it's not giving me what I want. But if we can reach deeper
Mhm.
to the large language model on like, oh, I want this specific part, I want to get a more in-depth answer. Let me move my video around. I want to get a more in-depth answer about just this one part. It's a really easy way to go a lot deeper into the source content. So that tends to be useful. Last thing I'll just show you on this is the ability to get more from the answer from the entire original answer. So if you just want more about this one paragraph, you can ask
Mhm.
for it here, or if you just want to rewrite just this part here. But if you want to do it for everything, that lives down here. And we also have a new feelings and needs section. So you might say like, what's really happening inside this person right now? Maybe it was a Zoom call that you're uploading, or what are the unmet needs here? I can try doing this for a Paramount 10K and we can see what happens. But you can see that it's giving me the need for strategic expansion, who it was expressed by, if there's a name, was it met or unmet? What are the associated emotions? And what's the analysis of it here? So that can be valuable to kind of get under the surface of what's happening in a piece of source content.
Jody, I just want to say that's kind of incredible to do on a SEC
Filing, yeah.
filing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is it is really interesting, right? Okay. So in terms of what we've shipped, I'll stop there. There's some things that we have in the hopper that I'd love to get feedback on. Is there anything else about this that anybody would like to?
I want to know a little bit more about the last bit that you shared with us, because so associated emotions with an SEC filing seems
Yeah,
out of this world to me.
yeah,
So yeah, I just want to understand how you are coming up with allocating these emotions like
right.
optimism, ambition, all these things. But we can come to that later if you.
Well, I'll just give you the headline here, which is you can actually click see more to see the full prompt that is being used.
Mm,
For now, why don't I just share this thread with you
sure.
and
Yeah.
you'll be able to see the actual prompt in more detail. One last thing actually about the new beta, you can change the knowledge that is being used here. So right now we're interacting with this one piece of knowledge, but you might say, you know what, I want to add some more knowledge. I want to upload more knowledge, and I'm going to upload also the Starbucks 10K as well. And so now that knowledge is going to be shared here in the knowledge that I'm interacting with. And now we can also see that it says knowledge changed. And I can say something like compare Paramount to Starbucks, and we can start, I'll just do that. Here's the really important thing to understand. This is kind of a secret feature because officially we only support one document at a time with this beta. The original can do a lot of documents. The reason we haven't announced this feature yet is because this is really due to context windows for the large language model, meaning kind of how much they can consume at once. And so if you have really, really big documents, it's going to start to drop data. This is something that we're working on right now. When we announce this feature publicly, it won't be a problem. But if the documents are small enough, you can do this today, and we can see that it's giving me a lot of differences between the two. So feel free to play around with that now. Yeah, Finn, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi all. Nice to see you today. I think I really loved in the original version the prompt library, where I think over time I set up like 3 prompts that I used a few times. So maybe it's really trying to mix these 2 features together, where you'll just be able to like go to your prompt library and then just go and select one of the ones. When you select text, or when you have to go dig deeper. Yeah, exactly. This one, but listed when you hover on text.
Okay, so let me paraphrase that back. Yes, we don't have a dynamic prompt library yet in this beta. And like you're saying, Finn, in the original, you can go to town on this. What I'm hearing you say is, what if I could say, okay, this I want to be one of the prompts that shows up when I highlight here. Is that accurate?
Correct. And it could be even its own section, like help me understand, get more in depth, or like custom, like you mentioned.
Great ideas. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. All sounds very doable. And as we start to build the prompt library into this version, so it's dynamic, yes, absolutely, we can work on changing this. And Leah, I think that would give you the pieces. Then we can put some like role-based access control around people being able to publish that or change it for the team or the company, et cetera. Okay. All right. Now, let me take you into the land of what is not yet built. And so the first thing that I'd like to do is show you some of the work that we've been doing on collections. And so I've got a lot to share here, and we've got 9 minutes. Do y'all have a hard stop at 3:30? Can anybody go over a little bit? I just want to check.
I can go over.
A little bit? Okay, all right. Thank you, thank you. So let me start by orienting you to a version of the screen that we are on today. So let me go back and forth here 1 second. I'm gonna go back to, let's say this. So let me just put these two next to each other. So this is currently in production, what we were just looking at. This is a version of what that is going to look like when we ship this new functionality. Let me just kind of like talk about what's different. We still have the ability to chat. The look and feel's a little bit different. We'd love to know if you have opinions about that. So tell us now, or as I'm talking, like, oh my God, I love this, or I hate it, or, in terms of, is it cleaner? Is it look? How do you feel? Do you feel, just as good using this or not, or better? But one of the really big changes here is you can see that it says chats, but there is also a view called collections. And so what is a collection? A collection is a space where I can invite people into. So think about it like a project space, but where I can also put files. And so right now I'm in the chats timeline view, so I can see, and Bears, this is what you had asked for. I want to be able to see everything from today or yesterday or last week. Or Bears, you were like, I want to even be able to see last year. I just want to be able to see a timeline history of all of my chats. And so we've got that view here. But also, I might have some chats where I just want to like upload a file, ask some questions, and then go on to the next thing. But sometimes I might want to add that chat into a collection so that I can make it accessible to my team and I can be brainstorming with my team. And so we have the idea of being able to add it to a collection. And so either you can add chats to collections, or you could just create a collection. So let me go over to this view here. So in this view, I am now in a collection. So we can see that I went from chats over to collections here. And I kind of have like a home page for my collection. And so let's talk about what's in here. I can invite people into this. So like Leah and Berge, we've heard a lot about. I don't want it to be like the original SmartChat where it's everyone with an email address. I want to be able to invite a specific group of people into a space. And so that's the idea here. I can also upload or drop files into this. So maybe I've got a project that I want to invite people into. I want to upload a set of files and we want to be able to work there. I also can see my recent chats. So these are all of the recent chats that have been happening for just this collection. And we can see that in this example, this collection is a sub collection of a larger one. And so at each of these levels, marketing has all the files that are in these sub collections. So if I want to chat with all my marketing content, I can do it up here. If I just want to chat with this one project, I can do it down here. Let me just stop for a second and just see who's got thoughts, observations, reactions to this. Kosha, I see your hands up, and then Leah, maybe we also come back to your thoughts too.
Yeah, so I just had a quick question. So are we trying to compare the UI of the beta version which you showed us earlier versus this one?
I just would love to know, because you know they're different, and
yeah.
And just does one feel better than the other to you?
Yeah, so I think the one you shared right now is definitely it has less things going on, right? So it's like it's less overwhelming in that sense. It's cleaner. But I personally feel like there's a sense of brand missing here. I feel like, the voice of like Storytell AI is not coming through. And that obviously doesn't need to happen through a background. But I definitely think that there's a sense of branding missing here. Like this could be any other platform, but I need to know that it's yours.
Okay, well, so to that point, Kosha, you have like completely identified exactly what's going on. As we grow at Storytell, we're bringing in more experts around the UX, the user experience pieces. And that's what I hear you saying is less overwhelming. But we actually have not yet applied the UI treatment. It's like we haven't actually applied the look and feel.
My bad. I'm so sorry.
And we're trying, no, it's not your bad, because we're trying to decide how much we should do that versus just shipping it like this first, because we always love to ship and get stuff out so you can start to use it. So it's actually really helpful to understand, like, yeah, I would like it to feel a little bit more like the brand, but it does make more sense, I think, is the way that I would summarize what I heard you say.
Yes, absolutely.
Does anybody else have?
Yeah, Jordy, I agree. I think you need to definitely brand it so it kind of sticks out for when people are using it. What I like about this, and I think when we were talking about this, what my vision was, it's like when you have a PowerPoint file and I'm working with the team and having the team members build it as I'm building it together, right? But when we're doing that, I'm able to give certain people access to making changes where other people not access, just to like be able to see it. So in a way, it's almost like, okay, let's build the story together. But Marty, you're kind of out. Just watch. You know what I mean?
Yep. And in fact, Bears, to that point, I'm just going to see if I can quickly show you the way that we're imagining that can work. Might look something like this, and you're adding people as collaborators or viewers, etc. I think that's the thing that I hear you saying. Does that sound right?
Right, because we never got the meeting with Lewis Carr, right? We need to go back to that. So that's what I was thinking, because Lewis's team is the sales team, right? So if I'm going to send this to him, I don't want him to play his team to play with it. I want him to come back and give me ideas, and then I'll play with it.
Great.
Because if you give sales, like if they want Trodia, we can get them seats. They can do their own thing. But anything that I'm working on that has numbers on it, that's going to go out to the street, I can't let sales play with it.
Right. That's very dangerous to let sales do anything like that. Okay. Yeah. So I'm hearing different roles like collaborator, viewer, maybe commenter. where, yeah, maybe they could make some comments, but they're not actually, or maybe they can't, maybe they can chat but not upload files. I think that we can dial in exactly what those permissions look like based on the things that you need. So we're trying to create the space for that to happen here. And it sounds like, I think I'm hearing that we're on the right track there.
Yeah. And Eric, I'll email them to get that thing back on.
Awesome. Great.
Okay. I've got one more thing that is even earlier in process. So I just want to go to that really quickly, and then we can circle back here. So we were working with an executive at like a Fortune 50 company that is bringing Storytell in, and he was sharing this desire for something that we are calling dynamic smart chats. Now, let me try to explain what it was that he was asking for, because I'd love to know if this would be valuable to all of you. So imagine that we're in a collection view. And, you know, earlier I was showing you what the kind of like home page of a collection view could look like. And there's a lot of things that could be on that page. If I can't quickly get back to where I was, I'll just bail here because I just lost it. Okay. So for example, this might be the homepage of a collection, and you can search in the collection, you can upload files, and you can see recent chats, and maybe there's recommended questions. Well, imagine there's another section here, and that additional section is called dynamic smart chats. A dynamic smart chat is really a prompt or a question that you ask Storytell that has an answer, but it gets updated every time a new file is added. So it's almost like you're pinning that smart chat to almost like a dashboard page. And maybe you're like, which of my customers is at greatest risk of churn? And that question is answered based on the data that's in that collection. But every time a new piece of data is added, the answer auto updates. So you could pin these smart chat, dynamic smart chat kind of cards to the collection. And you could also click into it. And when you click into it, you can see a history of, well, here's what the answer was 27 minutes ago, but a new piece of content was added. So now that answer looks like this. And I'm also, when we were brainstorming this with this guy named Brandon, we were also talking about when you're creating the card, you can also say, hey, I want to notify these people or these groups every time the answer changes. And so I just want to check in with that. How valuable does that feel?
I'll tell you, Trodio, like we make claims, right? So Sisters is the #1 Black content on television, The Oval's #2, and those claims change, right? Based on when we have Nielsen data. We don't have any Nielsen data right now, but when hopefully we're going to get it back eventually. But if we had this, and it can like generate those claims, you know how much like that would be such a lifesaver for us.
That's cool.
To be able to do that. I think it goes back. Yeah, we have to talk because it goes back to having the Nielsen data, which can be problematic. But to be able to do this with that would be huge.
How valuable would it be for the answer not just to be in text, but for the answer to be a graph or a chart or maybe text? And like, would you want to be able to define these cards as more than just a text answer? Would that be valuable?
So for claims, text is good because what we're doing is Leah, have you ever worked on claims documents that go to like senior management? It's just basically like an email that kind of goes out and it's like, we're #1 here, we're #1 there. Mm-hmm. For that, they're not that interested in graphs. But when we're taking the claims and we're putting it like, we're going through budget season, and then we have to put it into a graph, into a PowerPoint presentation. So in the end, yes, it's important, but for like that quick thing that I would need, the bullets would be good enough.
Cool. Okay. One more quick follow-up here, and then Finn, I'll go to you. But imagine that you had a collection for each show. So like Sisters or DR in Detroit, etc. And then you had a collection for all shows. Yeah. I could imagine that you could have dynamic smart chats at each level where you have a question that's show specific, but then you could have a question at this collection level that's how do all the shows compare to each other? And data, from all the shows would be pulled from the data that's in each collection.
Yeah, like we can upload, let's say, the entire Nielsen data for the quarter, right? And if the system eventually can read the CBS, the Excel files, then it can do that. It can take the rank for us. And like we massage the data at Rodeo. So like if I put everything in there, what we normally do manually is we exclude sports, we exclude kids, we exclude news. By doing all of that, all of a sudden we become number one. So it, if it's smart enough for us to have like these prompts built in, or for us to put it could save us a lot of time. Because then it's just running it, putting it into the, what are you calling it? SmartChat or dynamic
SmartChat. Although that is the CEO's name, and one thing I've learned is I do not name things. Well, so if any of you have a name you would rather have this called, we would much rather if you pick the name.
I'm just being selfish and thinking, wow, if I had this, we have our monthly meetings with the senior team. How quickly would I be able to run this and have it? And when we're in those meetings, they throw a curveball at us. Is the system smart enough where we have all of the data for the quarter or the month that we can run through it?
Yep. Okay, so much more to talk about there, Berj. Finn, what you got?
Yeah, I can go really quick. I think one of the tools that we use the most in the product team and at Zeit is like Amplitude. So we have charts, we have dashboards, and we pin dashboard everywhere, like in PRDs, in any file. I feel like it goes back to one of the discussion we had in the past, where Amplitude is amazing for quantitative data, and Storytell could be that, but for qualitative data. So I think it's every thread always has like one end goal, which is like, maybe show of all of these documents, pull like the number of like a specific quote or something being pulled. So I could see myself maybe have like, I don't know, current AI sentiment, like our current AI add-on sentiment as one card. If you want to know how the sausage is made and you want to click and you want to see all my prompts in it, go for it. But at least you get the output, and I could share. So all in all, I think this is a good idea because every thread has maybe one metric that we can highlight. Either we pin it or we set up some intelligence where it dynamically pulls it every time we add data. But yeah.
And would you want to have a specific URL for each card where you could decide the ability to like embed that in other systems, like if you're doing a PRD or even publish it publicly if you want?
I don't embed anything in Amplitude today. I just say like, okay, in the last 90 days, we got 50K people using this product. Great. And here's a link. So if you want to go see the source, go for it. I don't embed it. Usually I just cite it and then I just put the source. So yeah.
So having a shareable URL per card, is that not important or it is important?
I think per card, yes, because you have the thread. Basically, the URL would be the thread URL, as I'm understanding it. What I would love is actually URL for a collection, because I could just, per feature, for example, have different sets of data and just show like, okay, here is a positive quote, a negative quote, indifferent, and like on the same collection, I could pull different types of data.
Each collection will have its own URL, so you'll absolutely be getting that.
That's awesome.
And I think the reason I'm asking is we're trying to understand like how much would any of you want to kind of like pull this card from this collection and this card from that collection, and I want to maybe like assemble them all in a different dashboard, so it's kind of like a different view, or I want to be able to like reference just this answer. And it's a little bit different than going to the thread. Like the idea is, yes, absolutely, you could go to the thread and have like a full conversation, but this is almost like a little asset type, which is a card that can either be text or a graph or something.
I think the thread is useful for the person building it, But whenever I share something like a chart to the exec team, they just want to see the output. Like, great, this. 99% of the time they won't go through each thread. They just want to see like the output of different surveys or different documents.
Okay. Who else has any thoughts, hopes, dreams, aversions to this concept?
I would say that this seems like a very important feature. However, it might get lost if you put it in a similar way, like the
in
other
view?
sections. This could almost be its own thing, or like something to differentiate it, being, make it look like the hero element here, because that's where you're doing like a lot of.
Kosha, it's so interesting you say that, because originally this insights section was going to be the place that we put those. And I think that's a really valuable insight, that maybe it shouldn't just be a part of the collections page.
It could be, but it could maybe look different. It could, I mean, it should just maybe not look the same as the others, because you're definitely adding value here, right? So that kind of needs to come through in some sense.
Okay. Thank you so much for all the feedback. That's it for me. And if you have more that you want to bring in, I'm happy to stay on as long as y'all would like. But this is amazing. So appreciative.